Developing a Healthy Small Group Strategy is the ministry that I oversaw and ran at my last church. It was a very large ministry. And today we're talking about idea number 4 on developing the strategy. And it's a topic that I get asked all the time, especially at my last church. And small groups are always asking me about studies. Like, hey, what's a study we can do? Where can I find a small group study? What kind of content is out there? Do you know about different material that I could research or look at? And maybe it's a potential study that my group can do. I got this question asked so much because when people were doing a study and they ended a study, most church members, they don't know where to go to find another study. And what actually happens, and it's actually a little bit dangerous, is they just kind of go on Amazon or just go on the internet and just type in small group study or like Bible study. And they just find some random study out there and they look at it and they're like, oh, this looks interesting. And they purchase it or they download it and they start doing it. And the reason why it's a little bit dangerous is because, you know, the internet is vast and anyone from anywhere can just develop a study and post it online and you can buy it and you have no idea who this person is. You have no idea what they're teaching. And I know a lot of people might think I'm getting a little overprotective here, but you know, the truth is there's a lot of teachers out there that are not teaching very biblical things, or they're teaching things that are just extremely biased, or they might be even teaching false truths. So you really want to make sure that you have this ready for your small groups so they have a good pathway to study good biblical content. Now, this is not a sponsored video and I'm not, paid to share any of this, but one of the best places to find really good small group curriculum and content is from Lifeway. They're a publisher. They have a website. It's called smallgroup.com, and they have tons and tons and tons of small group studies on here from very well-known pastors, very, very well-known teachers. If you've been to church for a long time, you're going to recognize a lot of these names. But great, great studies from a lot of trusted people, and there's so many different topics on there. I think this is the reason why it's one of the best places to find a study. There's so many topics on this website. Now, again, I just said this, but this website is going to have a lot of different teachers from a lot of different backgrounds. There's some on there that maybe I'm not really the biggest fan of. So please, just because it's Lifeway or just because it's, Gospel Coalition or some other publisher or Crossway, it doesn't mean that everything that they have, that all their published sources are trustworthy sources. So you really want to do good research. Talk to your pastor, or if you are the pastor, please do some good research. Really make sure that they're sharing good biblical content that's in alignment with your doctrinal statement, things like that. But I just wanted to make sure you guys don't think that everything on there is good, because I don't even know. There's so much on there. But that's a really good place to start. They have a lot of good topics on there. Now, one of the easiest things to do for small group studies, and it's a very popular thing that most churches do, is you don't really have to produce content at all or find content at all. What a lot of churches do, and it's a great idea, and actually it really makes it the easiest thing to do for small groups to do, is to think of 3 to 5 really good discussion questions for the small group to talk about based upon the Sunday sermon. Whatever the pastor is going to preach about this Sunday, the pastor or the leader should think of 3 to 5 small group discussion questions based on that sermon that the small group, when they meet during that week, they're going to talk about. So this is a really good idea because they've already heard the sermon, or if they missed the Sunday because of vacation or business trip, hopefully your church has it online somewhere. They can listen to it. But it's the sermon. So it's like kind of you're using the sermon and you're getting your church members to continue to talk about it and think about it during the week. So it's a great idea. And you're really getting them to kind of dig into the sermon even more. Now, most pastors have this good problem, and that is when they prepare their sermon, they have so much content that they have to strip out of the sermon because it's just too much to share. in a 30 or 45-minute sermon, however long your pastor preaches for. And that content can be used to think of some good discussion questions. And I really want to emphasize this. If you follow this pathway for your small group content, you really need to think of good, engaging discussion questions. So whoever's making it up, if you appoint one of your leaders to do this, please review it. The discussion questions need to be good and challenging. They cannot be too basic or they can't be too confusing. They have to be questions that really help the person think critically and really be able to share their heart. And that requires a skill set. You can't just ask them like, what was your favorite part of the sermon? That is just way too elementary. Or you can't just have it too general, like, what did the sermon make you think about? I mean, I don't know. That's just not very engaging. So really make sure if you follow this pathway, your discussion questions need to be engaging, critical, and actually spark a discussion. Again, this is really important. You don't want to spark a debate. You don't want to think of questions where you're always going to have the group at odds against each other, but you want to think of questions that are going to be a little bit challenging to them. It forces them. This is the way to think about it, okay? Think of questions where it forces them to think about their life, think about their heart. It thinks about their sin, their struggle, and it really helps them to think about the sermon, the truth, and to engage with that truth, to wrestle with that truth, and then to share about it. And then you get people to share. One of the best ways for the group to get closer. So that's one of the best ideas to do. It's a very, very popular idea. Now, something that I advocate for a lot, and I'm going to make a video series about how to do this later, but I really believe every church should produce their own small group studies. You should absolutely do this, especially for those of you who went to seminary and you're always Bible nerd and you love talking about theology and all this stuff. Okay, great. Well, think of a study. Create a small group study. Now, I know that's easier said than done, so I'm going to create another video series on how to do that well. But you should create your own small group studies. Really think of a topic. You love reading the Bible? Great. Study this topic and create a small group study out of that. What better way to have your church members engage more with your church and with your pastoral staff than going through a small group study with your own church pastors and leaders? So create your own study. Think of different topics. You could really do creative things here where you could create topics specifically for different life stages. At my last church, I developed a small group study where we actually did different generations, and I spoke about topics, and I spoke with different generations about that same topic. You could just imagine the different things that were shared depending on if you were a college student or a married couple empty nester. Be creative with that one and develop your own studies, but have it ready. There should never be a time where your small group is just waiting for content, waiting for material. That is a very, very bad thing if that's happening at your church. You should have a database. You should have a PDF, something to kind of let them know, like, if you're looking for a study, here are some ideas, or here's a database to go to, or maybe create it for them, create the topics for them, and then give them ideas of trusted small group studies, curriculum, and resources to go through that they can start. Do not let them wait. Make sure that they have good content, faith-based content that they're going through. Keep on developing a healthy small group church strategy and produce some healthy small groups. I'll see you in the next one. We're in the small group strategy and developing it, so if you guys missed any of these videos, watch them, develop that strategy, develop a healthy small group ministry. It's one of the best ways to get people to come to your church.